I didn't catch my boss betraying me in some big dramatic meeting. I found out sitting on my couch with one sock off, cold takeout on the coffee table, and my laptop balanced on my stomach. If I'd opened Netflix like a normal burned out employee, I'd still be showing up to work tomorrow, smiling at the man who was busy cutting my throat in real time. Instead, I clicked the wrong icon, and my whole career opened in a tiny grainy window in the corner of my screen. It was a Thursday night, the kind of late where your apartment is too quiet and the city outside feels like somebody turned the volume down. I'd stayed at the office until almost 9, pushing a last build for the product demo on Friday. Our team had been working on that project for 6 months. I was the one who wrote most of the core logic, the one fixing bugs at midnight, the one saying, "We're close, just give me another day." At 7, my boss, Mason, popped his head into my cubicle and clapped his hands once like a gym teacher. "Evan, we're heading out. Don't kill yourself over it," he said. "Push what you can. We'll show whatever's stable tomorrow at the party. You're doing great work, man." He always said man when he wanted something from you. I nodded, like always. They left in a wave of perfume and laughter, everyone half-dressed for the office, half-dressed for the bar. I stayed. I always stayed. By 8:40, I finally hit a clean run. All tests green, no logs yelling at me. I packaged the build, documented it, pushed it to the internal server, sent Mason and the team an email with the release notes. Then I shut down my station, grabbed my backpack, and took the late train home with the other people whose bosses didn't know when to stop asking. My apartment was exactly the way I'd left it. Dishes in the sink, hoodie on the back of the chair, one dying plant in the corner doing its best. I dropped my keys in the bowl, kicked off one shoe, then the other, but only my left sock came off with it. The right one stayed stubbornly welded to my foot. I didn't bother fixing it. I just reheated the leftover noodles, ate standing at the counter, and told myself tomorrow would be a big day. Good big. Promotion big. Finally, get noticed big. The whole time, my phone kept buzzing with group chat notifications from the launch party channel. Blurry photos of the office rec room, someone lining up shots on the foosball table, a boomerang of Mason raising a glass. I scrolled through them with this weird, detached pride, like a dad watching other people babysit his kid. "You did this," I told myself. "You got us here." Around 10, I opened my laptop. Habit. My fingers went straight to the VPN icon before my brain remembered it was my couch, not my desk. The VPN logged me into the company network anyway. The screen flashed and a new window popped up in the corner. Conference Room A Live. We'd installed new security cams a couple of months back with an internal viewing tool for testing. I'd helped IT debug the stream once, which is why the shortcut was still on my bar. I almost closed it. I almost went straight to YouTube. But the preview image was Mason's blue button-down and the corner of a balloon arch, and curiosity beat common sense by about half a second. I maximized the feed. The camera sat high in the corner of Conference Room A, angled down. The room looked different without the fluorescent office lighting. They dimmed it, dragged the whiteboards aside, set up a makeshift bar along the far wall. Streamers in our company colors drooped from the ceiling, and a big, slightly crooked banner read, "Congrats, product team." My team. Most of them were in there, clustered around the tables. Megan from QA was laughing with a drink in her hand. 2 of the junior devs were half-heartedly dancing near the snack table. I could see the monitor at the front of the room, my interface on the screen, frozen on the login page I'd designed. I should have felt proud. Instead, the first thing I felt was tired enough that I almost shut the lid and went to bed. Then the camera caught Mason. He was standing near the front, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie loose, one hand on a bottle, the other on the back of a chair like he owned the room. He always looked like that, like the furniture got rearranged around him. Next to him was Daniel from upper management, the guy whose email signature took up half the screen. VP of Product and Strategic Initiatives. Mason poured 2 drinks, handed one to Daniel, and clinked glasses. I reached for the trackpad to mute the sound. Old habit, making myself smaller, quieter. Then a phrase cut through the laptop speakers and pinned my hand, right where it was. I had to babysit Evan the whole way, Mason was saying, his voice bigger than the mic level could handle. Brilliant guy, zero instincts for deadlines. If I hadn't stepped in, we'd still be chasing edge cases. Someone off-screen laughed. My chest went cold, like my body hit pause, but my heart didn't get the memo. Daniel chuckled. Yeah, but the board loves the story. Our rockstar manager wrangled the chaos. You really delivered on this one, Mason. Delivered. The interface on the monitor behind them was mine. The chart layout, the data model, the login flow, all the stuff I'd spent weekends finessing framed them like a silent, glowing witness. My name, in the tiny footer, credit for internal builds, was minimized into invisibility on the streaming resolution. I knew it was there. Nobody else could see it. Megan stepped into frame, handing Mason a marker. Say something, she grinned. You know, for the people who actually made this happen. He grabbed the marker like it was a microphone. All right, he said, raising his hand to quiet the room. First off, thank you all for pulling this together. We were on thin ice with this deadline, and there were moments I honestly didn't think we'd make it. The room murmured agreement. Someone yelled, You did it, boss! Mason smiled, that practiced, humble tilt of his head. I'd seen it 100 times in meetings when he was about to translate my explanation into something that fit on a slide. Look, you guys know the story, he continued. When I came on, this project was halfway to being a beautiful disaster. Evan had the technical vision, for sure, but... He spread his hands in a helpless gesture. He gets lost in the details. Perfect code on a deadline is still a failure, right? A couple of people laughed. Not loud, but enough. The kind of laugh people do when they're not sure if they're supposed to. I didn't realize I was sitting upright until my back hit the couch cushion. My noodle container tipped over and rolled to the floor. I didn't pick it up. Mason kept going. So yeah, I spent a lot of late nights steering this thing back toward the date that mattered. Talking to clients. Keeping stakeholders calm. Making sure we had something to show today. That's management. That's what they pay me for. He said late nights like I hadn't been the one leaving after security started dimming the lights. He said keeping stakeholders calm like he was the one answering panicked emails from customer success at 11 p.m. with a laptop balanced on his knees and a half-eaten sandwich on his keyboard. I watched Megan nod along. She'd seen me in the office late. Everyone had, but nobody corrected him. Nobody said, Hey, wasn't Evan here later than all of us? They just stood there and let my effort change names. Someone near the front, maybe one of the newer hires, raised a cup. What about Evan? They asked, voice a little too casual to be completely safe. He's not here? Mason made a face like he'd just remembered I existed. Yeah, about that, he said. Look, between us, I'm not sure he's ready for this level of pressure. He's brilliant, like I said, but reliability matters. He bailed early tonight, said he had to run more tests, but we all know what that means. The room cheered weakly at the joke. I could see Daniel smirking into his drink. I hadn't bailed early. He'd told me to go home. He'd said, Don't kill yourself over it. He'd taken my work, my hours, my missed calls from friends and family, and translated it into unreliable with one sentence. Anyway, Mason said, shrugging, I'll talk to him tomorrow about what leadership looks like in crunch time. We can't have weak links if we want to keep impressing upstairs. Weak link. I stared at the laptop screen like if I focused hard enough, the pixels would realign and spell something else. Something that didn't end with my boss casually rewriting the last 6 months in front of the people who decided in my future. The camera caught Daniel leaning in, speaking low, but the mic still picked it up. You know the promotion discussion next quarter, he said. If we show the board you can deliver under pressure, even with personality risks on the team, you're a lock. personality risks. They were talking about me like I was a bad line of code they'd tolerated for too long. Mason clinked his glass to Daniel's. "Trust me," he said. "By then, either Evan steps up, or we transition him out quietly. I've covered for him long enough." Covered for me? My hands were shaking, but not in the way I expected. There was no rush of heat, no urge to throw the laptop across the room. It was the opposite. Everything went very, very still. Like the moment right before a program crashes and you know it, even if the screen hasn't frozen yet. I sat there, sock half on, cold noodles on the floor, office party echoing off my living room walls, and listened to my boss outline how he was going to use my work, my project, my name, as a stepping stone, and then kick me off it. I could have grabbed my phone. I could have called him, texted him, blown up the group chat with screenshots and righteous anger. That's what the version of me in my head did. The one who always said the perfect thing at the perfect time. The version sitting on that couch didn't move. Instead, I reached for the trackpad, paused the video, and took a long, measured breath. The party froze mid-laugh, Mason's mouth open around a sentence I didn't care about anymore. If I reacted right then, I'd be the emotional one, the unstable one, the story he was already telling. So I didn't react. I opened a new folder on my desktop, named it something boring, Q4 Review, and dragged the recording into it. Then I checked the time in the corner of the screen. 10:17 p.m. In less than 12 hours, I was supposed to walk into that office and stand under the same fluorescent lights, while the same man told me what a team player I was. I closed the laptop slowly, like it might explode if I shut it too fast, and sat there in the dark, listening to the faint hum of the fridge. Somewhere on the other side of town, they were raising a glass to our fearless leader. I was staring at the inside of my own eyelids, realizing quietly and without drama that tomorrow morning was not going to look anything like they expected. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay in bed with the laptop closed on the nightstand, the room lit only by the faint blue from the streetlights outside. Every time I shut my eyes, I heard Mason's voice again, calm, confident, rehearsed, like he'd been practicing that speech long before tonight. I kept replaying one sentence in particular over and over until it hollowed out the center of my chest. By then, either Evan steps up or we transition him out quietly. Transition me out quietly. I'd given this company years of my life. They were planning to erase me like an outdated feature. By 2 a.m., I stopped pretending to rest. I threw the blankets off, opened my laptop again, and plugged into the company VPN. If Mason was building a story, I was going to tear it down line by line. The first thing I did was replay the recording, not because I needed convincing, but because I needed precision. I needed timestamps, clear audio, every detail. When the camera caught Mason leaning toward the VP again, my pulse kicked up. Personality, risks on the team. It wasn't just backstabbing. It was premeditated sabotage, and the way Daniel had smiled at that phrase, like it was a problem already being solved, that told me something even worse. They'd been talking about this long before tonight. As the video ran, I opened a new document and started typing. Facts only. No adjectives, no opinions, nothing emotional they could twist. 10:02 p.m. Mason states, "I've covered for him long enough." 10:04 p.m. Mason suggests that I am unreliable. 10:06 p.m. VP indicates upcoming promotion discussion and labels me a personality risk. I didn't know it yet, but that decision, to write everything down, would cost them far more than their party buzz. Next, I moved to the server logs. Every build, every update, every commit had a timestamp and username. My username. Line after line of code attached to my ID, my nights, my fixes. Mason's name appeared exactly where I expected it. In the comment threads where he asked vague questions like ETA or need this resolved by EOD, he'd never touched the codebase, not once. Then I opened my sent email folder and dragged out the release notes I'd sent just before leaving the office. I added that to the folder. Then the JIRA tickets showing I'd resolved 3 blockers the team had been stuck on. Screenshot. Added. My hands moved without shaking now. Focused. Cold. Then something unexpected surfaced. As I searched through Slack logs, I found a message from Mason to Daniel, dated 2 weeks ago. I had access because I managed permissions for integrations, one of those invisible jobs Mason bragged about doing. The message was short, sharp, and dangerous in a way he clearly didn't understand. Don't worry, I'll make sure the narrative fits the board. Evan's brilliant but messy. I've been positioning myself as the stability he lacks. Positioning himself, using my work, my reputation, my silence. Another message followed. If he pushes back, I'll document performance issues. It won't reach HR. So it had never been about a deadline. It was a planned removal, a quiet burial of my career. For the first time, I felt something hot under my ribs. Not anger, but clarity, the kind that sharpens instead of burns. I checked the time. 3:11 a.m. Most people would have called HR right then. Most people would have fired off screenshots to the team, blown everything open. But I'd spent the last few years being the quiet one, the careful one, the man who thought before he acted. Tonight, that version of me finally paid off. Instead of sending anything, I started organizing. Video file labeled with date and room number. Slack screenshots in chronological order. Server logs exported and highlighted. Email documentation. Project ownership history showing I was the sole contributor to all critical modules. I built the cleanest case of corporate misconduct I'd ever seen, and I didn't embellish a single detail. I didn't need to. Around 4:00 a.m., I got up, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were ringed, hair a mess, shirt creased. I looked like a man the company would easily throw under a bus, but something subtle had shifted. A line inside me had clicked, and once it clicked, it didn't unclick. I went back to the laptop and added one last line to the top of the document. This report contains evidence of misrepresentation, project theft, reputational harm, and attempts to prefabricate performance allegations. Then I put everything in a single folder. Then I duplicated it. Then I uploaded a copy to a private cloud drive. Then an encrypted USB. At 5:40, the sky outside turned pale. Birds started making those broken early morning sounds that are too soft to be cheerful. I made coffee, strong enough to scrape paint, and sat at the table while it cooled. My phone buzzed. A message from Mason. We'll run the demo today without the extra features. No big deal. Get here at 9 sharp. Need to talk. Need to talk. Not good job. Not thanks for the build. He had no idea what I'd seen. He had no idea what was coming. I stared at the message for a long second before locking the screen and putting the phone face down. I didn't reply. By 7:30, I was showered, dressed, folder packed, USB in my jacket pocket. I walked out of my apartment into the kind of cold that wakes your lungs before anything else. Today wouldn't be dramatic. I wouldn't raise my voice. I wouldn't confront him in front of the team. Mason expected noise. He expected emotion. He expected me to play the role he'd already written. But I wasn't the weak link he'd described. I stepped onto the train with the folder in my hands and the smallest, calmest thought in my chest. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. I got to the office 20 minutes earlier than usual. The kind of early where the hallways still smell like last night's cleaning spray and the lights flicker awake one row at a time. My steps echoed more than they should have. Maybe because I already knew. By the end of today, nothing here would sound the same again. I didn't go to my desk. I didn't even look in the direction of Mason's office. Instead, I went straight to the glass doors of HR, those soundproof confessionals every company pretends they don't need. The woman at the front desk, Claire, blinked like I'd shown up with a fire in my hands. "Evan, you're here early." "I need to file a formal report," I said. My voice was steady. Too steady. She opened her mouth, closed it, then gestured toward a small conference room. "Of course. I'll call compliance." Inside, the room felt colder than the hallway. The AC vent rattled softly above me, trying and failing to be subtle. I set the folder on the table, USB on top, laptop beside it. 3 minutes later, 2 people walked in. Hernandez, head of HR, expression carved out of calm stone. Parker, internal compliance lead, the man whose emails always ended in per policy. They greeted me the way people greet someone who either needs help or is about to ask for it. "What can we assist you with, Evan?" Hernandez asked. I didn't answer right away. I opened the folder, slid the printed report toward them, and pressed play on the recording clipped to the first page. Mason's voice filled the room instantly, loud, confident, too confident for a man being listened to by the wrong audience. Either Evan steps up, or we transition him out quietly. Hernandez didn't blink, but she did stop breathing for a moment. Parker leaned in slightly, tilting his head like the camera feed was a specimen on a slide. I let the recording run for 30 seconds, long enough to show context, short enough to avoid unnecessary theatrics. Then I paused it. "Everything in that folder supports what you just heard," I said. "Slack messages, server logs, commit history, meeting notes. You'll see timestamps, cross-references, ownership trails. Nothing was altered." Parker lifted one page and whistled quietly. "This is extensive." "It's accurate," I corrected. He nodded once. "Accurate and extensive." Hernandez folded her hands. "Evan, what outcome are you seeking?" "I want the truth on record," I said. "I want protection from retaliation. And I want a full investigation into Mason's conduct and the misrepresentation of my work." She didn't ask why I didn't confront him. She didn't ask why now. She'd seen enough cases to know when someone had been building a coffin out of facts. "We'll begin immediately," she said. Immediately meant now. Parker stood, gathering the notes, USB and printed logs like evidence bags. Hernandez walked me to the door. "We'll need you nearby today," she said gently. "Don't speak to Mason. Don't mention this to anyone yet." I wasn't planning to. When I stepped into the hallway again, the office had woken. Keyboards clicking, coffee machines steaming, people greeting each other with the bright cheer of people who hadn't seen last night's footage. I walked to my desk. The morning sunlight spilled across my monitor, the same one I'd stared at for months while building the project Mason had taken credit for. I booted up my machine, pretending to check emails, pretending to breathe. At 9:04 a.m., the elevator dinged. Mason strode out, coffee in hand, shirt crisp, smile already switched on. He spotted me and walked over with that same gym teacher clap he always used on his team players. "Evan, we need to talk real quick before the demo, man." "Not today." I didn't look up. "HR needs you first." He froze mid-step, smile flickering like a dying bulb. "HR? Why?" They didn't say. That was technically true. It was also the last kindness I gave him. His fingers tightened around his coffee cup. "Is this about last night? Because if you're upset, you couldn't make the party." Before he could finish, another voice sliced through the space. "Mason." Parker stood behind him, expression unreadable. "We need you in conference room B." Mason turned, confusion and irritation fighting for space on his face. "Now? I have a demo in—" "It won't take long," Parker said. That tone meant, "It will take exactly as long as we want it to." Mason followed him, glancing back at me once, searching for reassurance, maybe dominance, maybe both. He got neither. The door to conference room B closed behind them with a soft, final click. I didn't move. I just listened. At first it was quiet, muffled voices, polite tones, the kind of corporate language that sounds harmless until you read the minutes later and realize someone's career ended in those syllables. Then the calm cracked. A single sentence punched through the glass. "What recording?" Another voice, sharper now. "That's not possible." A third, low and controlled. "Explain the discrepancy." Silence followed, the kind that weighs more than noise. That was just the beginning. As the minutes crawled by, people noticed something was wrong. Slack pinged softly with messages like, "Why is Mason in B? Did something happen? Is the demo delayed? I sat still. At 9:37 the door opened. Hernandez stepped out first, then Parker, then Mason. But the man who walked out wasn't the one who walked in. His face had collapsed inward. His eyes looked like he'd been staring at something too bright and too damning. He didn't look at me as he passed. He didn't look at anyone. His badge hit the HR desk with a dull, barely audible tap. A tap that, in a company this polished, meant only one thing. I watched him walk toward the elevator. Slow, defeated, shoulders slumped like he'd suddenly aged a decade. When the doors closed, he was still staring at the ground. People whispered. People speculated. But I didn't join them. I just sat at my desk, breathing evenly for the first time in months. And as the office hummed with the tension of a storm no one had seen coming, one clear thought settled quietly in my chest. They thought I'd be the one collapsing today. They were wrong. I didn't go near conference room B again. I didn't need to. Whatever had happened inside had already spread through the office in whispers and nervous glances. By noon, the tension had changed shape. Not confusion anymore, but certainty. The kind that settles over a workplace when everyone realizes someone important has fallen, and fallen hard. Near 12:30, my email pinged. Subject, meeting, 1 p.m. From HR Director, Hernandez. No panic, no dread. Just a quiet exhale as I stood, straightened my shirt, and headed back toward the room where my boss had watched his career end. The door cracked open the moment I knocked. Hernandez waved me in with a calmness that felt deliberate. Inside sat Parker, another HR rep, and 2 directors I'd only ever seen on quarterly Zoom calls, the kind of people whose names live on flowcharts, not Slack channels. "Evan," one of the directors said as I sat, "we want to begin by acknowledging the seriousness of what you brought forward. No small talk, no euphemisms, straight to the point." "Good." The director adjusted his glasses. "We've reviewed the recordings, the logs, the messages, and the timeline you provided. Compliance cross-referenced everything." Parker slid a folder toward me, thicker than the one I'd handed them this morning. "Your documentation was exceptionally clear," he said. "We didn't find a single inconsistency." My chest loosened a little, not because I doubted myself, but because hearing it confirmed out loud was a different kind of relief. The director continued, "As of this morning, Mason's employment with the company has been terminated, effective immediately. His access has been revoked. His attempts to misrepresent project ownership and fabricate performance concerns constituted a severe violation of conduct." There it was, simple, cold, final. Hernandez leaned forward. "Evan, we also want to formally apologize. You were placed in a position where your work and reputation were endangered. That should never have happened." I nodded slowly, letting the words register without sinking into them. I wasn't here for validation. I was here for clarity. "And," the director added, "we would like to discuss your role moving forward." This part, surprisingly, I hadn't imagined, not because I didn't think I deserved it, but because for the first time in months, revenge wasn't the engine inside my chest anymore. Just quiet. "Your project leadership was misattributed," he said. "We intend to correct that publicly, in writing." That landed heavier than expected. My name restored. Not in a whisper, but in an official company-wide announcement. "And beyond that," he continued, "we'd like to offer you the technical lead position for your division. You've effectively been functioning in that capacity already." I looked between them. "Is this because of what happened?" I asked calmly. "Or because of the work I've done?" Hernandez smiled, not politely, but sincerely. "We reviewed your entire project history this morning. You earned this long before today." A quiet warmth settled in my chest. Not joy, not triumph, just the solid weight of something finally fitting where it should have been all along. "I'll accept," I said, and that was it. No parade, no speeches, just a signature on a form that put my name in the right place again. When I left the room, co-workers looked up at me differently, not with sympathy, not curiosity, with clarity, as if they finally saw the person who'd been doing the work all along. By 5, the office had returned to its normal hum. My new badge role had already updated in the system. HR circulated a brief statement. Following a compliance review, leadership changes have been implemented. We thank Evan Carter for his integrity and continued contributions. No details, no drama, just the truth, and a line drawn in clean ink. At 6:10, I stepped outside into the early evening air, the kind that smells like asphalt cooling and the city settling into its quieter rhythm. For the first time in months, my shoulders didn't feel like they were holding something up. On the walk home, I passed a coffee shop Mason used to drag us into for team bonding. I kept walking. His absence didn't echo anymore. It just wasn't there. A space reclaimed. When I reached my apartment, I hung my keys on the hook, set my bag down, and made dinner without rushing. No laptop open, no Slack notifications tingling in the corner of my mind. Just quiet, the good kind. Later, sitting on my couch, the same spot where everything had unraveled 2 nights ago, I opened my inbox. A message from Daniel, the VP, sat unread. Subject: Thank you, I didn't open it. Some things don't need my attention anymore. Instead, I closed the laptop, leaned back, and let the stillness settle around me like a blanket I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Not triumph, not victory, just peace. The kind you get when the people who tried to bury you forget something important. You weren't soil, you were concrete. And by the time they realized it, I'd already stepped out of their shadow for good.